For years, many have wondered if a factory packed with experimental and potentially lethal foods was indeed a safe place for children and their families to visit. Long before its questionable workplace safety protocols were implemented, there was a young aspiring magician and inventor who dreamed of becoming a world-renowned chocolatier. His name is Willy Wonka. I'm Ronald Young Jr., and I'm leaving the theater. All right, this is Ronald, and I am leaving the theater after seeing Wonka. Wonka, written by Simon Farnaby and Paul King, directed by Paul King, starring Timothee Chalamet, Calah Lane, Keegan-Michael Key, Paterson Joseph, Matt Lucas, Rowan Atkinson, Olivia Colman, Hugh Grant, and Natasha Rothwell. And as usual, for a complete cast listing, you can go to the link in our show notes. I expected to do this one alone, but per usual, my man showed up in the nick of time.
Right here.
Ready to go.
What's up?
I am not here alone. I am here with
JC Howard, what's up?
once again, JC Howard back in the building. We are critics. We just show up to screenings.
We coming through. That's how we do.
We already know what we do, and you know who we is to. Okay, all right. Let me just stick to what I do.
Yeah.
Wonka. Wonka is a throwback movie. No, not a throwback movie. What am I trying to say? A prequel. It is a prequel to the beloved movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, based on the Roald Dahl book Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which actually has a sequel. A lot of people don't know that. And it tells a story about Willy Wonka's humble beginnings in this town where he's just trying to get people to enjoy his chocolate. JC Howard, what did you think of this movie?
I came in with low expectations and was blown away. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie. I thought it was really great, especially for children, which is something that I didn't actually expect. I expected, like many of the prequels that we see nowadays, it to be catering to the audience that watched it back in the day, like catering to the folks who love Gene Wilder, or even the folks who love the remake with Johnny Depp. I don't know who that might have been, but
We don't talk about that one.
we don't talk about it, and for good reason. But like, if there were folks who loved that one, either way, they weren't catering to people who loved the other ones. They were catering to children. They were catering to the children of today to give them a brand new movie to fall in love with. And I might be falling with those kids.
This movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love this movie. I think it is a great Christmas movie. It comes out this weekend, but it's a perfect movie to take with your entire family, your grandparents, and your grandchildren to go see. There's nothing terrifying that happens in this movie. It is something you can absolutely enjoy. As a millennial, if you have kids, you're going to enjoy it because there are little callbacks, especially in the score, little callbacks to what is happening to the movie that we knew and loved growing up with. They use come with me and we'll see me in a world of pure imagination. But they do a lot of that. They use that scoring throughout the rest of the movie. And I think part of it, they even use the Oompa Loompa theme in a very clever way. And I thought, you know what's funny is with the previews, they were selling Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa pretty hard. And I thought that I was going to get tired of it, and I didn't. And they seasoned it just right. What did you think of Hugh Grant as the Oompa Loompa and any of the other bit characters?
Peppered perfectly. Hugh Grant was, I think that's right. I think that I expected him to be like all over it and to get kind of saccharine sweet with it. But no, it was just like a little bit here and there. And as you said, the rest of the character acting, oh my God, every single one of them on point. Rowan Atkinson as like this priest, like every time he rolls his eyes because he eats chocolate, he's a chocoholic. And it's just perfect. And it's like, it's zany in a way that I don't think that, for instance, so the original one that we grew up on, right, the Gene Wilder version, like it was in England, or, you know, it was in a world that was normal. very much normal, very much like our world, very like unwhimsical. And Wonka was this whimsical, strange part. And this was just whimsical all throughout. The entire world was kind of bought into this thing, and like it's a fantasy movie. Like, this movie was actually a fantasy movie in the way where when the character's hair changes colors and grows super long, it's like, yeah, this is the world we live in. We're not pretending to be somewhere else. We're not pretending to be in the real world. This is like a fantasy world. And I think that the character actors really kind of shine through with that. They're all kind of perfect caricatures of like these like evil villains, like an evil policeman, and like these, corrupt billionaires and things like that. And I thought that every single one of them was on point.
I agree. I think the character acting was fantastic. I think everyone was a bit of seasoning. There was no one that was overused. There was one problem I had. There was a fat joke in this movie that I think was very cheap.
Yes.
And it was one of those things where I'm just like, and I heard people chuckling around me, and I wanted to walk over and be like, what's the joke? The joke is that he's fat. That's
drag
the joke.
Drag them, Ronald. Drag them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, what was the joke? Like, I mean, sitting there watching it, I think, and I remember thinking also, like, Keegan-Michael is funnier than that.
Exactly.
And I know what they were trying to send, but I'm like, if they just put you in a fat suit, like for whatever reason, because you ate too much chocolate, it just doesn't feel like there could have been something more clever that had something to do with this. But the only way you go is when you talk about massive quantities of chocolate or sugar, you only go in two directions, either fat or diabetic. And I don't like that that's always the punchline of the joke. Now, I will say it didn't take enough. It didn't kill the movie for me, but it did make me squirm in my seat a bit.
No, I think they could have let his teeth fall out or something like that.
Yes.
Like make it a dentistry. They did that a little bit with the Johnny Depp one, right? You like have this dentistry element to it. Like, make that be the thing that happens to him. I think I also want to call out someone who was not a character actor, the young woman who played Noodle.
Fantastic.
Just dripping with charisma. Like
so much riz, as the kids say.
so much riz. She was fantastic. Like, all throughout, she has a pair of pipes on her, a set of pipes. She like fantastic singing. The music also, by the way, throughout was like, I was not expecting. I don't know if I was not paying attention, but I was not expecting it to be a proper musical. So that element actually surprised me as well. Like, in the keep referring to the old one, right? In the Gene Wilder version, the music was mostly just the Oompa Loompa. You had the Oompa Loompa songs, and then you were kind of done. But
Gene Wilder sings.
Gene Wilder sings. He has a couple songs,
but it's not a musical. You're right.
Yeah, he's got pure imagination, and then that like zany one where he's going through the dark tunnel, which is great song. But yeah, this one, like, everyone. Like, they're singing all throughout. There's big dance numbers, and I think that it will probably get some nods and nominations for some of the music, because the music is fantastic. And I think that it's something that like kids will be playing and listening to over and over and over again. So parents, get used to it. Get ready.
There were songs that were stuck in my head as I left. I didn't know this was a musical until it opens and he's on a boat and he starts singing. And I turned to Michael Katzeff, shout out to Mike Katzeff. I turned to him and say, oh, this is a musical? And he goes, I guess so. and I was like, the thing about me and watching musicals is, like, sometimes I'll watch it and something will happen, and I will have been into the song, and then maybe the mood will shift and it'll be something sad, and I'll hear the music shift and I'll be like, please don't sing. Yeah. Like, I know you're sad. Please don't sing a sad song. Like, let's just, and I feel like with this one, there was a one point in the movie where they stopped singing a bit, and I appreciated that. I'm like, we don't need any more music. And then they sang the way out, which I'm like, that's good. Yeah. So for people who are like, I don't feel like no musical, let me just tell you, this movie is one of those ones that has nothing to do with Christmas, but is just dripping with Christmas spirit. It's definitely not something that, I'm glad they didn't drop this in the summer. You definitely want to watch this when you're coming in out of the cold. And I think that it was a musical, like, strengthened it a bit for me in terms of, like you said, creating that fantasy world. I think this worked better. And it's weird, because now that I'm thinking about it, the original, we would not consider the original to be a musical, right. But for some reason it was very, like, there was a lot of singing and dancing in it, but it was like contained to the world of the factory. Yes. Whereas this one, it was like, no, it is contained to the world of Wonka. Wherever he is, there will be singing and dancing. Like, and now that I think about that, I really don't think people did much singing and dancing if he wasn't there, right. Like, or if he didn't initiate the number.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, and just the way that everything was used, I think you put it perfectly in that, like, there wasn't too much of anything, even with the music. For people who are kind of scared away by musicals, this is a perfectly fine musical. If you could deal with any of the Disney movies that millennials grew up with,
Yes.
It's along the same lines. Just like enough music to pepper it in to like, to really just like, I don't know, like
Well seasoned.
to well season it, right? To frame the things, to shine a spotlight on the emotions that are kind of being felt, or to deepen the story in a lot of the cases. Like they gave a little bit of context, gave a little bit of exposition in a story instead of having a character just stand there telling someone, "This is who my mother was, and this is where I came from."
Yeah.
So yeah, I really appreciated all of the music.
And it's also funny to me that this is probably one of the first years in which I already know what the entire field of nominations for set design, costume design are going to be. I know Barbie's going to be in there. I know The Color Purple's going to be in there. This is certainly going to be in there. And so it's really interesting to see Oppenheimer will be in there. It's very interesting to see like the use of the set design, production design, makeup, all the hairstyling, all that stuff, which is very fun in this movie. Now, with all of that being said, we talked about this movie. We both liked it. Let's get down to brass tacks. How many stars do you give? What do you rank? What do you rate? That's what I normally say. What do you rate this movie, J.C. Howard?
Easily 4.5 stars. I think that, as I said, kids will be playing this movie over and over and over. Parents, whether you like it or not, the kids are going to be playing it over and over. And I don't think that the kids will get tired of it, and I think it'll take a while for the parents to get tired of it, or the parents will get tired of it and then come back to it. Like they'll start coming back around and singing the songs, and like I can imagine people listening to this soundtrack in the car. Again, not a very long soundtrack, but like listening to the soundtrack, listening to the songs. So easily a 4 out of 5. Four and a half out of 5.
I would give it 4. I give it a strong 4 out of 5. I don't think I'm as enthusiastic as you, but I am very enthusiastic. Like I think if like my family was like, let's go see a movie. Well, actually, my family would not be into this movie. But if a family wanted to see this movie and I was there, I'd be like, there's plenty of families that would be charmed by this movie. I think we didn't talk too much about it, but Timothee Chalamet does a really good job, and I think this is another movie that shows the range of this man, because I think he could have played a dour. Like, it's funny that they got Timothee Chalamet for this, who can play dour. Yes. He can play surly, and he didn't do none of that in this one. He is having a good time. He is charming. He is earnest. He is naive. All of those things that you don't normally get to see from Timothee Chalamet in a way that like kind of brought joy, I think, to the screen. If anyone's talking about him not being able to do that, I would disagree in this one. And this kind of shows even more of this guy's range. And I mean, I thought we had seen it all, and I guess we hadn't. So now his singing, maybe not so much. Yeah, sure. And it wasn't bad, but you can tell it was like, yeah, you in the studio on this one, my guy. But yeah, I think it was I 4 out of 5 stars, solid 4. Very good movie. Definitely go see it for Christmas. I think it's an easy win.
Easy, yeah, for sure. And I think that's right. I think Timothee Chalamet was a lot better than I thought he would be. I was coming into it thinking, can Timothee Chalamet do whimsy? And yeah, the answer is yes. He absolutely can do whimsy. So great job, Timmy.
And with that, Leaving the Theater is a production of Oh It's Big Ron Studios. Alexandra Ketch of Bias Studios mixes the show. Thank you, Alex. Show art from Heather Wilder. Theme music by the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. For more information about Wonka or J.C. Howard, check out our show notes. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, or Threads at Oh It's Big Ron. That's at OHITSBIGRON. You can find out more about this show and other Oh It's Big Ron Studios shows by following us on Instagram at Oh It's Big Ron Studios and on Twitter at Oh It's Big Ron Stu. That's STEW. Leaving the Theater will be back soon. Thanks for listening. And thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me again.